Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at an incredibly spicy team in the Open Master League featuring a perfect Ivy Shadow Tyranitar and Focus Blast Tapu Lele. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Cool Trainer Bob, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now this Shadow Tyranitar is running Legacy Smackdown, the Tapu Lele has Astonish as its fast move, and as the closer, the ever-deadly Tapu Bulu. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at this very spicy team absolutely shredding through meta Pokemon. Hopping into the first match, picking up a bad lead Shadow Tyranitar into Primarina. It is going to be a Charm Primarina. We see the save switch into the Tapu Lele, and Tapu Lele is going to fire off the Nature's Madness. Not only will this inflict some serious damage, but it also comes with the guaranteed defense drop. Opponent shields, so Tapu Lele more than willing to shield back as well. Tapu Lele is going to get to a second Nature's Madness. Is the Primarina really willing to double shield here? The answer is yes. So Primarina gives up both shields, and just like that, the Primarina has effectively been neutralized. In comes Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu is going to shield up as Primarina goes for the Hydro Cannon. Opponent pivots into Kyogre, and this is going to be the triple water team. There's the team with Charm, Primarina, Kyogre, and Palkia that is absolutely everywhere right now. And boy, this team is going to have a terrible day now that the Primarina is gone and Tapu Bulu is almost at 100 energy. Opponent still does have the Charm Primarina. They try and snipe with the Primarina, but they get sniped in return by the Tyranitar. And now this is just over. The opponent has to farm up to the back-to-back moves, but they're not going to be able to get there. Stone Edge is reached. That's going to pick up the KO on Palkia, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, Shadow Tyranitar versus Zacian. As long as shields are up, this is okay for the Tyranitar, but a close combat landing would be absolutely devastating. Opponent does farm up to a potential play rough. We will see the shield from the Tyranitar as the opponent is going to go for that move. Tyranitar farming up, going for a bait now here. This would be a devastating no-shield by the opponent, but they will commit the shield. And now we see the save switch into the astonished Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele more than happy to absorb a charge move. Play rough does do quite a lot of damage. Tapu Lele firing off the Nature's Madness. Opponent is going to switch out and make a catch onto Dialga. But this is very fine for the Tapu Lele. Look at the astonished damage here. Dialga not going to be able to farm down. Those Dragon Breaths are double resisted. Nature's Madness number 2 is reached, and Tapu Lele able to flip switch. In comes the Zacian, but look how much work that Tapu Lele did on the save switch. In comes Tyranitar, the switch, and the sneak. Do we see the catch? Yes, we do. It's going to be the wild charge, and in the back is Yveltal, and this should just be game over, as Yveltal cannot handle Tyranitar whatsoever. They shield the first Nature's Madness as well, and it's just all over for the opponent. Cool Trainer Bob knows the win con. It's Shadow Tyranitar and a shield, and look at the smackdowns go. Absolutely deleting Yveltal. Yveltal didn't build up to the Focus Blast, so he's just going to no-shield, fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to pick up the knockout, and Tyranitar does have the back-to-back moves loaded. So from a pretty tough lead, this team able to win in convincing fashion with a shield remaining as well. Hopping into the next match, Shadow Tyranitar versus Xerneas. Tyranitar definitely not going to want to take either one of these charge moves from the Xerneas. Xerneas farms up to a Moonblast, and we will see the shield from Tyranitar. Opponent does go for the Moonblast. We do actually see a Moonblast debuff. That is extremely unfortunate. Tyranitar threatening a Stone Edge, baiting with the Brutal Swing. Opponent will commit the shield, and now we see the save switch to Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele more than happy to tank the Moonblast that Tyranitar could not take. That still inflicts some serious damage. I don't believe this is enough energy for a Moonblast. It's going to be a double resisted close combat. That's not going to cut it. Opponent is running ABA Fairy. In comes Zacian. Zacian immediately met with the Nature's Madness. So again, Tapu Lele able to put in some serious work here. Tyranitar able to barely outpace, making it to the Stone Edge. Stone Edge is going to connect, and down goes Zacian. In the back is Rhyperior. Rhyperior quickly answered with the Tapu Bulu. This is enough for the Rock Wrecker. Tough call to make, committing the shield and getting it right, as it is going to be the Rock Wrecker. Farming up quite a bit of energy. We do see a devastating catch from the opponent, catching the Nature's Madness. Nice undercharge by Cool Trainer Bob, and he is going to get a lot of that energy back. Back in comes the Rhyperior. Rhyperior going to be perma-debuffed by the Nature's Madness. We do see the shield. Switch Clock is up, but not able to get the catch. That is unfortunate. Rockwrecker is going to pick up the KO, and it's all up to Tyranitar. Tyranitar gets the brutal swing. The opponent was debuffed earlier by the Nature's Madness. Will this KO? The answer is yes. That's not something you see every day. Tyranitar KOing a Rhyperior to take the win. Oh my goodness, the dream lead in the next match, Tyranitar versus Ho-Oh. Opponent safe switches into a Waterfall Primarina, and this poor Waterfall Primarina is about to get absolutely shredded by Tapu Bulu. If it was Charm, then they could actually win the 2-shield. But since it's Waterfall, there is no hope of ever flipping it, so the opponent is just going to send in Ho-Oh to get a massive energy farm. Ho-Oh is going to be debuffed twice to do so Ho-Oh will exit with 100 energy, but man, this Smackdown that registers is going to inflict so much damage. Smackdown goes through, Tyranitar respecting a potential Solar Beam. Do they have it? And they do! What a call! And now the opponent has their own Tapu Bulu in the back, and that's going to be answered with the Tapu Lele. This endgame will be a battle of Nature's Madness. Opponent able to land the first onto the Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele returning fire. Opponent decides to shield because Astonishes do threaten quite a bit. If Tapu Lele is able to get these shields down, then maybe Tyranitar will be able to sweep. Tapu Lele is farming up quite a bit, going for the Nature's Madness, tried to go for the CMP tie, but the opponent did not let that happen. Nature's Madness connects, there's the switch to the Tyranitar. Will this Grass Knot KO? It does not. Tyranitar hangs on. In comes the Ho-Oh. It gets smacked down, and on 1 HP, I do not believe my eyes. Tyranitar needing every bit of that perfect IV stat product to take home that victory. Great lead in the next match, Tyranitar versus Giratina Origin. The Giratina is staying in. What do you have in the back that is worse into Tyranitar than a Giratina? Oh my goodness. Brutal Swing is going to connect, devastating damage. In comes Rhyperior. This is probably going to be their only answer, and that will swiftly be met with the Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu going for the Grass Knot. Does the opponent call the bait? No, they will use a shield, and now Tapu Bulu has a tough call to make. Committing the shield, getting it right once again. These opponents not really going for the baits, and that has paid off. I really like that overfarm there, understanding the opponent was energy dry. It's 50 energy to a Rock Wrecker, so you can safely overfarm by 1 since Tapu Bulu is going to win the CMP tie. Opponent is running Surf. I do really like running Surf on Rhyperior as well. They try and snipe with a Giratina, but that just ends up being caught back onto Tyranitar. Tyranitar would love a farm down, can't quite get there. One final move from this Giratina Origin. It's a Dragon Pulse, and it picks up a knockout. In comes Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu is going to get a nice farm down. So Tapu Bulu does exit with quite a bit of energy. In comes the Rhyperior. Rhyperior is low enough that you can just KO with the Madness. Madness, oh my goodness, it didn't quite KO. The opponent, oh no, they said it Kyogre, and they are just an absolute shambles against Tapu Bulu once that Giratina is out of the way. In comes the Tapu Lele. Can't quite get the Astonish down. That's a 1 HP survive from the opponent. It's only going to be a Surf, and that's just not going to cut it. And Tapu Lele gets to Astonish down everything as the opponent concedes the match. We move to the next game. A familiar lead and a bad one leading into Primarina. The safe switch into the Tapu Lele. It is going to be the Charm Primarina once again. And Primarina will immediately be debuffed by this Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness is going to be shielded. These Astonishes adding up quite a bit. And Tapu Lele knows if it shields, it's going to make another Nature's Madness. So it's a very worthwhile shield as you can effectively neutralize the entire Primarina. And that way, hopefully Tyranitar can do well in the back. Tapu Lele able to win switch. Well, Tyranitar's not doing well against that Pokemon. You're going to need the Tapu Bulu for this one. Tapu Bulu hits the field of play and is going to immediately respect the Rock Wrecker. There it is. So a good shield. Now going for the Nature's Madness bait, expecting the opponent will put up the shield, and the opponent does just that. Opponent is going to go for the Rock Wrecker, but a switch and a catch by Cool Trainer Bob. He gets the sneak through as well, catching the Rock Wrecker. That does massive damage. Tyranitar, oh, can't make the move. Gambled on being able to get there. The opponent makes a switch out and a catch on a Palkia. wait, is this somehow still winnable? It's going to be a very tough game. Tapu Bulu, I think, would have to try and farm down here to have a chance at winning. Palkia will fire off its energy. Palkia goes for the Aqua Tail. Can Tapu Bulu get the double up? It can. And it's gonna win. No shot does Tapu Bulu win this. These games have been crazy. Rhyperior has the move, but again, Rhyperior, despite having a way higher combat power, it has the lower attack, so it's not gonna win the CMP tie there. And this team just keeps clutching improbable wins. Well, this is an amazing lead. Leading into a volatile opponent is going to save switch into Zacian, choosing to stay in with the Tyranitar for now. Thought about switching out, but unable to do so. We see the shield from Tyranitar on the play rough. Tyranitar now going to full send the Stone Edge, guaranteeing massive damage, or the shield back. Opponent is going to bring the shields back to even, as now Tapu Lele hits the field of play. This is not a CMP tie. The Zacian did outpace by one singular turn. Wild Charge, serious damage. Tapu Lele not going to risk any additional damage and will return fire with the Nature's Madness and pick up the knockout. No Yveltal here. Opponent going to send in Rhyperior. Rhyperior does get the farm down, denying the energy on the Tapu Lele. In comes Tapu Bulu. This is a guaranteed Rock Wrecker. Rock Wrecker is going to be no shielded, but this energy lead on the Rhyperior could potentially prove to be problematic. Rhyperior is able to force the final shield with a breaking swipe. There's the switch to Yveltal, and if this Yveltal has Focus Blast, this game could end in disaster, but that's too soon. That's not enough Sucker Punches. It's just going to be the Oblivion Wing. Can Tyranitar get the full farm down here? Not going to risk it. Instead, just going to go for the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to connect, picking up the KO. In comes Rhyperior, and Rhyperior will be met with Brutal Swing number 2. This Brutal Swing is going to connect. Rhyperior gets fully farmed down by the Tyranitar. Opponent tried to commit to the win con there, but they do end up succumbing to the fast move pressure. Familiar lead, Shadow Tyranitar versus the Zacian. One thing that I'm just noticing now is when Tyranitar begins the battle, it does look like the Christmas tree in the background is his hat, and I really appreciate that. That is definitely not something that you're going to see every day. I do really enjoy the holiday backgrounds here in Go Battle League. We do see a very nice switch out and a catch by the opponent, catching the Stone Edge onto a Shadow Rhyperior. Shadow Rhyperior, this Rock Wrecker does so much damage to Tapu Bulu, so I honestly really like the shield decision there, because you can farm all the way down. You're down 2 shields, but at the very least you have 100 energy, so you'll be able to pressure those shields back. Is the opponent going to bring back in the Zacian? Yes, they are, and Zacian will instantly be met with back-to-back Nature's Madness. First Nature's Madness is going to be shielded, firing off the second one immediately, so not even going for the bullet seed in between, just looking to provide pressure and get those shields back, as Tapu Lele, when shields are down, can put in some serious work. Zacian goes for the play rough. That will pick up the KO. In comes the Tyranitar. Tyranitar, can it get the farm down? No! Disaster strikes. Zacian hanging on with a sliver of health, makes the play rough, knocking out the Tyranitar. But it's good news in the bag, as it's a Palkia, and Tapu Lele will be able to handle this no problem. Tapu Lele fires off the Nature's Madness, massive damage to the Palkia, and Aqua Tail is just not going to cut it from this health range. Opponent goes for the Aqua Tail, but they need a second move, and they cannot get there. The Zacian is much too low, and they will resign the match. We move to the next game. Oh, Shadow Tyranitar versus Zamazenta. Pretty bad lead. We're going to see a switch out into the Tapu Lele. That is honestly one of the worst Pokemon you could see. Oh no, in comes Rhyperior. Say it ain't so, Mr. Opponent. Say it ain't so. Oh no, that's a one-hit KO with a Focus Blast. And just like that, Switch Advantage has been secured. Switch Advantage, unfortunately, does not do a lot for this team in particular, because this team is so weak to Ice Fang Zamazenta. Zamazenta will go for the crunch, now immediately going to be met with the Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness is going to be shielded up. The good news, though, is the Astonishes are adding up quite a bit. So, even though, unfortunately, Zamazenta is going to be inflicting some serious damage on just about everything on this team. The Zamazenta is quite low. Opponent goes for a crunch there, and they make it to another move. The energy generation on Ice Fang improved this season. In comes Tyranitar. Tyranitar is able to get the Smackdown farm down, and whatever their third was must have been weak to Tyranitar, as they will concede the match. Hopping into the final match, and what a lead leading into Yveltal. Yveltal stayed in for a little bit. Now they're going to send out a Duskmane, and they are completely core broken by the Tyranitar. Tyranitar is going to grab a shield, and now we see a switch to Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele, these Astonishes do add up quite a bit. Lele will commit the shield, as unfortunately Duskmane is going to go for the Dark Pulse bait. Firing off the Nature's Madness, this is resisted damage, but it does of course come with the guaranteed defense drop. Tapu Lele unable to get the farm down. The Sunsteel Strike has been reached, and that is going to command the final shield. Back in comes Yveltal. Yveltal is still going to take some pretty significant damage from Nature's Madness. It's not going to one-hit KO by any means, but it's going to do some serious damage. Can you potentially snipe with the Tyranitar? Tried to snipe, but the opponent narrowly able to save that Yveltal, and in the back is going to be Palkia. Palkia commits the shield on that brutal swing. Palkia, can they get the farm down? No. Tyranitar was closing in on the brutal swing energy, so the opponent is forced to throw. And now it's Tapu Bulu in the back, and this is just going to be miserable for the opponent. Tapu Bulu, a complete wall to Palkia's energy. Tapu Bulu picking up the knockout with the Nature's Madness, and all the opponent is going to have left is a very low health Yveltal. We see the switch out into the Tapu Lele to get the catch. That catch was not needed to win, but it's that much more disrespectful. Get astonished down, Yveltal, and that is a good game. All in all, these are some incredibly fun battles, so many thanks to Cool Trainer Bob for sending them in. Now, this is definitely more of an anti-meta style team, so not necessarily a top team recommended for climbing, but I really like seeing people thinking outside the box when it comes to trying to counter the meta, because I'll be honest, in this entire Master League rotation, I have seen 0 Tapu Lele, and I have seen 0 Shadow Tyranitar. So definitely some unorthodox picks, but he was able to make them work. So many thanks for the battle submission, and it's very cool to see someone else who does have the perfect IV Shadow Tyranitar, as that's one of my favorite Pokemon. In the future, I would love it to potentially get a different fast move, maybe something like Rollout. I'm not sure if it gets Rollout in the main series, but if you can imagine a Tyranitar spamming out brutal swings and stone edges, I think that could be incredibly cool. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.